All Arkansas, all sports. It's more sports.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. I'm Wes Moore. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to have a little fun tonight. Got a former Razorback ready to jump in here, Braylon Mitchell, the linebacker. Going to talk a little bit about the Ole Miss game. Going to talk about Memphis. We got a lot to get to over the next couple minutes, Braylon. How are you doing, first of all?
Man, I am doing great. I appreciate you as always for inviting me to your platform. I've been checking you out, man. You're doing some good stuff. You keep it up.
I appreciate it. Thank you for watching. I'm trying to encourage as many people as I can to watch and go over to YouTube and subscribe. And it's growing. You know, it's growing every week. But it's a labor of love too. I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy catching up with you guys and talking
Yes.
Razorback football. So, well, let's do that. Um, Very disappointing finish to the game, man. I got to be honest. I've told everybody all week. 2 minute warning. That long timeout. I'm convinced in my mind Arkansas is about to bleed the clock, make Ole Miss use their timeouts, and just run that ball into the end zone. And very next play, you get the fumble, and basically the game's over. Just such a disappointing end to a really good football game. What do you think?
Yeah, good to some, not so much to others.
I like
but
offense. Okay, I know we're
yeah,
going to get to the defense and
yeah.
what you thought, but let's
But you
focus
know,
on
I know you.
the
I know you and I. We chatted briefly after that game, and we thought Arkansas was going to pull it out. But I agree. You know, going into that 2 minute warning, I'm like, yes, we're. Last thing you want to do, well, the first thing you want to do is get our offense the ball in a win the game type situation. We got exactly what we wanted, and then we just weren't disciplined. We weren't disciplined down the stretch. Like you gotta protect the ball. You know, in the last 2 minutes of the game, you need everybody locked in, and you just can't have mistakes like that.
Now I got to be thinking during that timeout. You know the Ole Miss coaches and even the team, all the teammates saying, "We got to get the ball back. We got to rip it out. We got to cause a fumble. We got to do
Mhm.
something." And hopefully on the Arkansas sideline, they're preaching the same thing. What you were just saying: lock in, focus in, take care of the football. And look,
Absolutely.
that was a great play. I mean, the linebacker came in, ripped it out. I mean, that's a good play. You got to tip their hat, and they went after the ball and they got it.
Yeah, you have to tip your hat to them. They did exactly what the coaches 9 times out of 10 talked about in the huddle. And what makes good teams great is the players who can take what's talked about in the huddle and actually get out there on the field and understand what situation you're in, punch at the ball, slap at the ball, get a good hit, do whatever you have to do to make that ball pop loose. But offensively, we put together a really good game. We just have to have some little bit better ball control, ball security, when it comes down to it. And I can't help but think that if we protect the ball, we walk away victorious.
I agree. Yeah. All right. I know you want to get at it. What did you see defensively? What was that? And especially the second quarter, the first half. They made some changes. Second half was better, held them to 10 points. But what was
Yeah.
going on in the first half?
Well, what was going? Well, I'll start first. I'll start off by saying this first. We returned 8 out of 11 starters from a year ago. Okay, and this is what makes it so hard to watch our defense. That 72% of our defense from a year ago that's been in this scheme now 2 years, going on 2 years. So to have some of the penalties and some of the miscues that we had that allowed some of the big plays is just inexcusable. You know, when you look at it, I went back and I watched that film, and Ole Miss really only got us on about 4, maybe 5 big plays. And if you go back and watch it, fans, if you're listening, you go back and watch that tape. It was the same play 4 times. What they did is they went back and they watched film and they saw that our linebackers weren't as disciplined in the pass game. And what they did is they forced him to try to cover from low to high, and they dumped it over his head every single time. And they took it the distance and won the game. You know, so it was an atrocity, man. And I'll tell you, if we don't get things fixed, we're gonna be in a lot of trouble.
Are those fixable things?
Yeah, they're fixable. You go back and you look at third down. Ole Miss converted 8 of 11 third downs. That is the most important down of the game. Third down. If you get to third down, you get your defensive lineman off the field. Those big bodies don't want to stay on the field long. If you're allowing the offense to get first downs after third down, the those guys are on the field long. They're getting their techniques get sloppy. They're tired. They're worn out. They're not getting the pass rush that you need them to get, and then it just allows for bad things. And then another thing that's fixable as well, when Ole Miss got in the red zone, they scored 7 out of 7 times. So that's 100% that we're allowing points in the red zone. You have to win third down, and you have to toughen up when you get in the red zone. You can't give up those points.
Could you pinpoint a position that was causing the problems?
Absolutely. It was all 3 phases. But if my back against the wall and I got to choose one, I'm gonna say the defensive line. We didn't get very much pressure on the quarterback. And when he rolled out, our defensive ends kept letting him break contain, and every time he rolled out, he just dumped it down the middle of the field, and they got chunk plays on us, and it led to points.
Secondary's gotten a lot of criticism this week for some bust and some wide open just receivers running free.
Yeah.
How's that cleaned up?
Well, the way it's cleaned up is Coach T. Will and his defensive staff, they have to go back to the drawing board. Okay. And I'm almost positive you'll see some new guys out there, some guys who actually want to play and actually want to make the defense look good. You'll see some changes up there as far as personnel goes. But really and truly, all they have to do is just watch film all week long. You know what's coming. Be confident, line up where you're supposed to line up, and be ready. Be ready for everything that you've seen on film, because the eye in the sky does not lie. What they show you on film is what they're going to do.
What was the difference in the first half and the second half with the defense?
Well, the difference was, I think one of the defensive coaches went in at halftime and started throwing chairs or something and started threatening some scholarships or something. But in all seriousness, you could see them kind of settle down a little bit. They understood the position that they put the team in. They saw that the offense was out there firing on all cylinders, making plays, and they woke up. They woke up, and it almost worked in our favor, but ultimately we ended up losing.
Can they build off of that, the defense I'm talking about? Because the second half was better, as I pointed out. They only gave up 10 points. And then they got that key stop on the Ole Miss Rebels next to last drive after Arkansas scored to make it a one-score game. And, unfortunately, they couldn't get one more stop when they needed to force them to punt the ball there at the very last drive. But can you build off of that or take something that'll help them on down the road?
It's absolutely something that we can build off of defensively. I think one thing, and I have to remind myself this, it's still early on in the season. I know Razorback fans don't want to hear that. They want to see us put together a product that can go out there and compete week in and week out. And I agree. But it's still early in the season. We're going into a non-conference game where we can kind of get some things cleaned up a little bit, game that we should win. And it should be something that we can, to your point, build off of week in and week out as the season progresses. But at the end of the day, it's going to start with those 11 guys that the coaches put out there. They're going to have to just boil down and get the job done. Coaches can call plays. They can build up and drop schemes. But at the end of the day, they can't go on the gridiron. It's between those 11 guys that go out there. They're going to have the want to get it done at the end of the day.
How do you feel going into Memphis?
Well, I don't feel great defensively. Offensively, I know we can match points with the best of them. But we've put a product on tape that any team in the country would be crazy not to take advantage of defensively, right? We've shown that we can't stop the play action pass. We've shown that we'll give up 4 to 5 yards of carry to a running back. So I don't feel great going into that until I see the first couple of drives of the game and Arkansas defensively comes out and makes some stops and proves to all the fans that are going to be traveling to the game, to the ones that are going to be sitting at home watching it on TV, that they've made some adjustments. I don't really feel great. You look at Memphis and you see they played against a really good Troy team who pushed Clemson down to the wire. So you can say that they haven't played an SEC opponent, but they've played some people that have, put together some good games. And so I can assure you they're going to be coming into this game with guns a-blazing, because this type of victory in Memphis's favor is something that they need if they're trying to make like a playoff push or something, because they're going to do really well in their own conference.
Yeah, they have in years past. They've done really well in their conference, and this would be a feather in their cap. You know how excited they are hosting an SEC team and a
Yeah.
chance to beat an SEC team. This would be huge for them. I do know they like to run the ball. You know, they're
Yeah.
heavy on the RPO.
Hmm.
I like that better for Arkansas. After what I saw, I think Arkansas is better at stopping the run than stopping the pass.
And I would agree, but definitely look forward to them doing some play actions and bumming us deep because we've put on tape, man, that we're not disciplined with our eyes, and we're gonna leave a man or two open on every play. Until we get that changed, expect Memphis to change their game plan up just a little bit to take advantage of some things that we've put on tape.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. Teams would be crazy not to at least see if they can do it, but I don't know how many teams are as good offensively as Ole Miss. I mean, I love their wide receivers. Their running back, Lacey, Arkansas did a good job of slowing him down. He came into the game leading the SEC in rushing, but
He
you know
did.
that offense and Lane Kiffin. I think Lane Kiffin, Bobby Petrino, those are two great offensive minds. I don't know how many more offenses Arkansas is going to see that can do what Ole Miss did to them.
100%. When I was watching that game, I was thinking to myself, like, I don't really know too many offensive minds that are better than Bobby Petrino. But I knew going into that game that Lane Kiffin was a stud on his own right. And so to see them go out and basically have a shootout, that was something beautiful to see. You know, ultimately we didn't pull out the W, but yeah, Lane Kiffin's a stud, man. And I don't think we'll play, some receivers that are as big and physical and can catch and get some yards after the catch like we did against Ole Miss. But they're definitely going to try, let me tell you.
Well, you played long enough. I'm sure there was a time when a defense that you were on didn't have a good game, laid an egg or whatever.
Yeah.
How did you? What's going on? You think in that locker room this week?
Yeah, I mean, Wes, if you can remember when I played, this is something that I'm not proud of. We went on a 13-game SEC losing streak, right? So I definitely know what it feels like to be in a locker room and things not going your way. You know, offensively, we were doing some good things, but our defense was putting us in terrible positions when I was there. But the difference is we had a leader. We had Trey Flowers and Martrell Spate, two guys that I would go to war with any day of the week. Let me tell you. Those guys held us together. They kept us poised. They let us know that, hey, listen, I know we're not putting together, good wins and putting our team in a position to win, but if we stick together, we're going to be just fine. And then what do we do the next year? We come out and we go win the Texas Bowl. So the difference is Arkansas's defense is going to have to find a leader who's going to be an obvious leader. The fans in the stadium and the fans on TV, we're going to have to be able to say without a shadow of a doubt that that particular guy there is the leader of that defense. Without a leader of the defense, they're going to be in trouble the rest of the season. I can assure you that.
Yeah, Cam Ball's the captain. You know, I don't know if he's that vocal guy that you're talking about. Maybe he is. I'm not saying he's not. But I look across that defense and Xavier Sori at that linebacker spot or Steven Dix. You got to think one of them. Offense, they got Taylon Green. He is the dude for the team. And Fernando Carmona's a lineman that's a captain also. So I think those are your leaders. But defensively, that's what they need too on defense. They need a Taylon Green type player
Yep.
to lead that defense, not only in the locker room, but on the field. That's just, you look at the game and watch the game and go, that is the best player on this defense. And I'm not
Yeah.
sure who it is.
Yeah. And, Wes, a leader can't be made overnight. A leader has to have those traits within him that can just come out at any given moment. And you see that with Taylor Green offensively. And I think if we can't get a guy who's vocal, I think Taylor Green, we're going to have to start seeing him a little bit more, go down there on the defensive side of the sideline and tell guys like, hey, listen, man, I need y'all to get it together. I need you to put us in a position. We're going to go put points on the board, get some stops so that we can, go up by a couple of scores and help put the team in a better position to win. So if we can't find one defensively, Taylor Green's going to have to be that guy.
You seem like an optimistic person, kind of like me.
Yeah.
More like glass is half full than glass is half empty. But you still, just listening to you, you think they're in for a dogfight this weekend?
Oh yeah, without a question, man, they're going to be in for a dogfight again. This Memphis team, they're dominant in their own conference, and they know that early on in their schedule they have to get a win like this against an SEC opponent that can be pretty good. based off of our offense. So, yeah, it's going to be a dogfight. I think ultimately we find a way to win the game. We better, because I can assure you we're going to have a different conversation next week, and some seats might be on fire if we find a way to lose that ball game. So I'm optimistic that we'll find a way to win, but I can assure you this isn't going to be an Arkansas State game. This isn't going to be an Alabama A&M where we give up 7 points. It's going to be a dogfight. And at the end of the day, the team that's the most scrappiest is going to walk away with victory.
Speaking of seats on fire, there's a certain athletic director that caught the ire of a lot of Razorback fans. I'm talking about Hunter Yurachek and his comments he made Monday at the Little Rock Touchdown Club. He said he would be brutally honest with the fans, and he said that they weren't in the position to compete for national championships or to win national championships. I got to wonder, as a former player, how did that sit with you?
It didn't sit well with me, right? It didn't sit well with me. I understand the magnitude of having a John Calipari run your basketball program, and you understand what comes behind him, championships, the championship mentality. But at the end of the day, any born Arkansan Razorback fans will tell you this is a football state. The last thing I want to hear my athletic director saying is, football-wise, we're not built to win championships. Well, what the heck are we doing, right? Like, what are we doing? If you go and you look at some of those programs like in Ole Miss, Alabama, like those guys are spending money. And I know, Hunter, you're taking the donors are spending money on our basketball program. Well, we can do that on the football field as well. So I wasn't proud to hear that. And even if I listened to DJ, I listened to his show a couple of days ago, and he said, at least lie to me. Like, lie to me if you think don't make me think that we don't stand a chance to win. Lie to me and say, oh, yeah, we're going to win. But to hear that from a guy that's running our program, like that, it doesn't sit well with me.
All right, now imagine you're a player.
Yeah.
You're in Fayetteville, and you see the headline, you hear the quote. It's on Twitter, it's on social media. You got classmates saying it to you. It's going to filter back to the team if it already hasn't by now. How does that make you feel if your AD says we can't compete for a national championship?
Well, I'll tell you this. If you ask a player, they'll say, oh, we're not listening to the outside noise. Bull crap. You're definitely listening to it. You're on social media. You see it. Players get a high off fans tweeting them and, messaging them and stuff like that. So in the midst of all that, you definitely see what the athletic director is saying. But as a player, if you don't take that personal, I don't want you on my team, right? It also makes me think that after the season, if I have an athletic director who's going to be around here for a while and I still got maybe 3 or 4 years of eligibility left to play, I'm looking at getting up out of here, because at the end of the day, the NFL is not promised, right? You might get a shot, but it's not promised. What's guaranteed is if you can stay healthy, you'll be able to play 4 years of college football, and you may never get to play again after that. So what do I want to do during my time on the Hill or on any university? I want to compete for championships, right? I want to know that going into spring ball and coming out of fall ball, going into the season, that everyone at the top of the program is doing everything possible to put us in a position to compete for championships. And to hear him say that, if I was a current player, I'd be talking to my people about, depending on how this season turns out, we may be looking elsewhere.
Well, and you know how recruiting goes, and you know how dirty recruiting can be, and what other coaches will
Absolutely.
say about other programs. You don't think that some coach will use that against Arkansas and what the AD said?
Absolutely. Like the recruiting game is a very dirty game, right? And a team like and I hate to keep using Ole Miss, it's just that I know the type of environment that they have there. A team like them will come in and say, why would you, even if you're born in this state, if you're raised here, like, why would you want to go play for a program who would come out and say that? Come play for us. We're going to bowl games every year. You can pencil us in for a bowl game. They're going to say that kind of stuff. And you get a vulnerable 17, 18-year-old kid, who's may not have someone who played college football before. They'll take that and say, you know what? I'm definitely leaving. I'm definitely going elsewhere. And it just makes it that much more harder for a Bobby Petrino, if he sticks around, to come sit in my living room as a recruit and tell me that, hey, we're going to compete for championships. Well, hey, you may be saying that, but your athletic director who runs the program, he doesn't believe that. So I'm going elsewhere.
Yeah, and I'm sure you have not only the kids thinking that, but parents. I mean, because they're worried about the future of their son. They want to get down to the bottom of this also.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, what comes with championships is more exposure to the ultimate dream goal of everyone, and that's playing professional football. If we're not competing for championships, we're not going to have very many scouts coming to watch us. Scouts watch championship games, right? They come out and they watch them. You may be a player that's flying underneath the radar, but if you can get your team to a bowl game, I guarantee you, you put some stuff on film, you may have a shot at the next level. So again, no knock on the basketball program, the baseball program, track, etc. But if next time he comes out and have a conversation like that, football needs to be at the top of it.
Yeah. What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing if we're not competing for championships?
I don't know. What do you think about it, Wes?
Oh, it was frustrating, but I've seen this for years, and because they've been lagging behind in the NIL game and constantly fighting an uphill battle, and they're still fighting that battle. And there are those who believe that it's going to be an even playing field when every university's doling out the $20 million, from the athletic department to the players. But we all know that these other universities, the A&Ms, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, that have money. They're boosters that have money. They're not going to just settle for that. No, they're going to find a creative way to attract players and pay them through the NIL fund. They'll do something creative, and that's the thing that's frustrating to me. Find a creative way. He was talking about staying out of that third lane, and that's maybe unethical right now, or it's not being policed right now. Well, you know what? There is a way to get in the third lane and do something creative and find a way to raise that money and pay those kids and have a better team. And right now,
Exactly.
the frustrating thing for me is, well, what is that? What are you doing to make up for the lack of funding for the football team?
Absolutely. And my last take on it is, I've had the unique opportunity that not a lot of people get to be a part of and witness, and that's getting to know some of the Arkansas Razorback fans on a personal level. So to me, when you come out and you say something like that, it's almost like a slap in the face to the fans. Think about your fans that are coming out and they're buying season tickets. Think about your fans that are coming out and they're working their tails off to save up for a Notre Dame game that'll probably never happen, at least in another lifetime, right? They're saving up for these games, and of course they want to come for the experience, but they also want to know that, hey man, we're going to be competing for championships. So it's just a slap in the face to the fans who spend their hard-earned money and support this program and have done so for so many years. You don't want to hear that from your athletic director.
Braylon, great stuff. It's always a treat to have you on the show. I appreciate your time and taking some time out of your night to join us. We appreciate
Absolutely,
you.
man.
Get you back on here soon, I promise.
Yes, sir. Well, you take care, Wes, and thanks for having me.
All right, have a good weekend. Braylon Mitchell joining us. Talk a little Razorbacks. Coming up tomorrow, we're going to talk some high school football. Big day. Thomas Thrash will join us from Hooten's Arkansas football. We'll get his thoughts on some of the key games. In fact, we'll make some predictions and go over some of the top games in the state of Arkansas Friday night. Not a huge list of games. A lot of teams are using this Friday night as their bye week. But there are some games, and Thomas Thrash and I are going to break those down and have a little pre-game talk for you tomorrow night. Be sure to join us for more sports.
All Arkansas, all sports. It's more sports.